Bon dia a tothom. Buenos días, good morning, bonjour. Benvinguts en aquesta jornada, en aquesta primera jornada de comunicació política que organitza el Màster en Comunicació Política i Social de la nostra facultat. Vull també agrair a les diferents institucions, col·legis, Ajuntament de Barcelona, que han participat en el disseny i en l'organització d'aquesta jornada. Sigueu tots molt benvinguts. Sigueu també molt benvinguts els estudiants en Relacions Internacionals i en Comunicació, que també participeu en aquesta sessió inaugural. Una sessió inaugural que contemplarà, en primer lloc, la intervenció del professor Marçal Sintes, exdirector de grau de Periodisme de la Facultat i actual director del Centre de Cultura Contemporània de Barcelona, i que tindrà a continuació la conferència principal del professor Philippe Maarek, el professor que li vull donar la benvinguda en nom de la facultat. Welcome to the school. Thanks for being here with us. Com sabeu, la Facultat de Comunicació té 6 màsters oficials, els anglesos diuen Master in Science, que són màsters que donen 60 crèdits oficials en el sistema universitari europeu. Un d'aquests màsters oficials, des de fa 2 anys, és el Màster en Comunicació Política i Social que dirigeix el professor Marçal Sintes. És un màster que per la facultat té una importància estratègica perquè agafa 2 mons molt presents en les àrees de coneixement de l'escola, de la facultat, la comunicació i la ciència política, i intenta complementar-los i agregar-los de manera de formar en un àmbit específic que té avui un pes molt important, que és la comunicació política i social. Una comunicació política i social que, com les altres àrees de la comunicació, viu també l'esclat dels social media, com diuen en anglès, o de les xarxes socials, com diem en català. Ens referim en 2 expressions diferents a la mateixa realitat, és a dir, el nou tipus d'autocomunicació en massa, com diria el Manel Castells, que estem assistint amb l'esclat de les xarxes de comunicació. Certament, amb els social media, amb aquestes noves possibilitats de relació i de comunicació que s'estableixen gràcies a les xarxes, també la comunicació política i social està vivint una fonda transformació. Aquest, de fet, serà l'objecte específic de la sessió, i una sessió que, com sabeu, tenim ponents de molt alt nivell durant la jornada d'avui. Res més, donar-vos la benvinguda, i ara té la paraula el professor Marçal Sintes per presentar-nos la jornada i el ponent que intervindrà tot seguit.
Moltes gràcies, degà, senyor Maarek. La meva missió és fer 2 coses molt senzilletes, que és presentar el programa d'avui i presentar el nostre primer ponent, el senyor Philippe Maarek. En primer lloc, haig de donar les gràcies a la facultat per haver cregut primer en el màster i després en la necessitat d'organitzar aquestes jornades, que són les primeres, però esperem que no siguin ni de bon tros les últimes. També vull agrair molt especialment a l'Associació Catalana de Comunicació, Investigació i Estratègia Polítiques, la CIEP, que tenim aquí representada, i també a l'Ajuntament de Barcelona, que ens han donat suport a l'hora d'organitzar aquest màster. El primer que farem, quan jo acabi les presentacions, serà escoltar el senyor Philippe Maarek. Després, a 11:15, hi ha un coffee break. Si podem, i el senyor Maarek acaba abans d'11:15, farem una mica de debat amb tots vosaltres, amb qui tingui coses que preguntar o que li vulgui dir alguna cosa o plantejar alguna qüestió al senyor Maarek. Després del coffee break vindrà la intervenció d'Amadeu Altafach, que sabeu que és el cap adjunt del gabinet del vicepresident econòmic de la Comissió Europea. Penso que té molt d'interès sentir-lo avui, que conversarà amb el vicedegà de la Facultat, Joan Barata. A 2:15 acabarà la sessió, ens anirem a dinar i a la tarda, amb la presentació del senyor Agustíbe d'Uribe Salazar, que és el president de l'ACCIEP, escoltarem la conferència del filòsof Josep Maria Esquirol, que porta per títol El sentit de la política, consciència, resistència i entropia. Aquesta intervenció segurament, segur, serà la més filosòfica del dia. I claurem a la tarda amb un debat que presentarà i moderarà el Carles Agustí i Hernández, que és el comissionat de Participació Ciutadana i Associacionisme de l'Ajuntament de Barcelona, i que tindrà la Montserrat Nebrera, el Francesc Marc Álvaro, l'Albert Sáez i el Toni Aire com a intervinents. Aquest serà el final i la cloenda anirà a càrrec de l'Alfons Medina, codirector del Màster i professor de la Facultat. Passo, doncs, ja sense més dilació a presentar el senyor Philippe Maarek, que per molts de vosaltres i de nosaltres és molt conegut perquè és una referència internacional en el camp de la comunicació política i el màrqueting polític. Ell és cofundador del Departament de Comunicació i director del Centre per Estudis Comparatius en Comunicació Política de la Universitat París-Est-Créteil. Ha estat president dels comitès de recerca de l'Associació de Ciència Política Internacional, la IPSA, i de l'Associació Internacional per a la Recerca de Mitjans de Comunicació, i AMCR, que molts segurament coneixereu. És autor dels llibres Màrqueting, polític i comunicació i Campaign Communication and Political Marketing. Aquests llibres, especialment el primer, són una referència obligada per qualsevol que vulgui endinsar-se en el camp de la comunicació política. El professor Maarek, a més, forma part del consell editorial de nombroses publicacions científiques, com ara The European Journal of Communication Research, The Journal of Press Politics i Comunicazione Politica, entre d'altres. Ha rebut la prestigiosa Legió d'Honor francesa. La ponència que ell ens oferirà serà en anglès i porta per títol Les noves formes de comunicació política i màrqueting polític digital. Jo fins aquí. Moltes gràcies a tots per ser amb nosaltres i cedeixo la paraula al professor Maarek.
Thank you very much. I must say I was a little hesitating because I didn't know if French was not supposed to be spoken more than English here in Catalonia, and because I don't speak Catalan, of course I couldn't speak Catalan, but I was asked to do the conference in French, donc je suis désolé pour les francophones et je les prie de m'excuser, mais je me plie évidemment à ce qu'on m'a demandé. So I'm going to make this conference in English, though being French. And if someone from the Francophone agency is here, I know he will excuse me. I was asked to speak, as you can see, on the forms of digital political communication and on its influence on today's political communication. But before that, as you can see, I think that you cannot separate digital political communication, meaning political communication through internet or through smartphones. You cannot separate it from the rest. So I'm first going to lay out quickly the ground basis of modern political communication. because the way modern political communication is changing is very closely connected to the way, in a way, digital communication is sometimes emphasizing, sometimes, of course, helping it. As you can see, the first point of modern political communication is that it's connected to political marketing, and it's all an empirical science, meaning it's not a science in a way. Meaning political marketing is a belief. And this is maybe the most important thing you have to understand, and it's also the same as politics. You can see that our governments, the French one, the Spanish one, they have crises and they try one thing, they try another thing, but there is no solution. It's not like mathematics. And political marketing is the same. If you look at a few of the more important dates in the history of international political marketing, you can see that in most of the cases, what the result was a stronger belief in political marketing just because it happened so. Let us start in 1952. In 1952, in the United States, Eisenhower was a candidate for the Republicans, and Eisenhower was just a plain general. He had no knowledge of politics. He had a very poor way of communicating. He was an elderly, already bald person. Anyway, so the Republicans thought they should help him. And he had no political ideas either, not really. So they hired a political communication, a political marketing advisor. And in fact, it was not even a political marketing advisor, because at the time, political marketing advisors didn't exist. So they hired the best commercial marketing advisor. And Eisenhower won. And because he won, then suddenly there was a strong belief in the United States that even if you were somehow a nobody in politics, like a general who has no knowledge of politics, if a political marketing advisor helps you, you can win. Strong belief. Then it went on. In 1960, as you remember, in the United States, Kennedy was against Nixon, and Nixon was the incumbent vice president. He had been the vice president for 8 years of Eisenhower. He was deemed to win. And there was a televised debate between Kennedy and Nixon. Nixon went without being really prepared. Kennedy was young, he was the outsider, he was a Catholic. The Catholics had never won a presidency in the United States. But he had done media training. He was very well prepared. And while Nixon just did the usual, Kennedy was speaking in front of the camera. He was speaking to the audience. He was giving strong sentences. He started by the Lincoln and slavery and referencing to 100 years ago, we had the choice to be slaves or not, and we decided not to be slaves, thanks to Lincoln. And he won. And then a second belief started. With television and media training, you could win against somebody who is very strong. New belief. And then I could go on. 1965 in France, de Gaulle was supposed to be the favorite. And then when against him, one of the candidates did a lot of media training, was helped by one of the advisors of Kennedy at the time. I mean, a French person who had gone to the advisors of Kennedy to learn how to do political marketing. Then de Gaulle had to do a second round of voting. He didn't win immediately. So the belief again came that if you had a strong political marketing advisor and you do political marketing, then maybe even de Gaulle was in danger. 1974, the same happened for Giscard d'Estaing in France. 1990 and 1997 in England, when Tony Blair won, everyone knew it was because of Alastair Campbell, his director of communication. And then he made even Alastair Campbell the director of communication of the whole government, with a stronger position than most of the ministers. And of course, you all know that, and so again, the belief was that if you had a strong political marketing advisor, you could win. And just to look at empirical things, even in Spain in 2004, when you had the Atocha attempt, everyone believed that the conservative, the Partido Popular, lost because Aznar didn't tell immediately the truth about who was probably the author of the terrorist attack. And so the strong belief was the Partido Popular lost because of Aznar. Aznar didn't tell the truth immediately, but maybe it's wrong. Maybe they would have lost anyway. We don't know. So what I'm going to say is, first you have to understand that political marketing is a question of belief. You do it because it has worked in the past and you think it will work again. But it's not a pure science, meaning sometimes you would do everything right and you would lose. The second point is about globalization of political marketing. I am French, I am speaking in English, I have books in French, in English, and in Spanish, and the Dean Carbonell has invited me to speak in Barcelona. What does it mean? It means that political marketing is something which is, quote unquote, international. There are no borders and there are no boundaries for political marketing, because today, not only we are in a global society because of internet, because of television, but also, more specifically, political marketing is something which everyone copies. Meaning when Obama does something in 2008, then you will see the Spanish, the French, whatever, will do exactly the same tactics just because it worked for Obama. For instance, Obama did a lot of grassroots campaigns in 2008. He had 10,000 people go all around the United States to train grassroots campaign and to train activists. Then the French did the same last year, and the Socialist Party trained people to go and train people, activists, and it worked for them too. It could have not worked, but it worked. So what it means is that today, political communication has become a two-step process. You don't make political decisions anymore without going first to marketing strategy, meaning you don't decide anything before checking it with your spin doctor, with your marketing director. If you want to see from the inside how it is, and if you have no connections to a political party, you could watch a TV series, which is a Danish one, which is called Borgen, where you see that the Prime Minister doesn't take any decision without the spin doctor. Again, a question of belief, but it means that political marketing now has forced politicians to start with marketing strategy before making any decision. It's very rare today that a politician just says, well, I want, I don't know, to improve education, and just goes like that. He has first to go through the spin doctor. And when you apply that to politics, and this is where we start to have a little problem, it means that political communication today is supposed to be, quote unquote, more and more professionalized. What does it mean, professionalized? It means, in fact, you have to go through all the steps of political marketing to be able to at least compete with the other politicians who do the same. Meaning, if one is very strong, does media training, and the other doesn't, he will look stupid. And this means that today politicians have a lot of difficulty, I would say, to make their own decisions, because they are in the midst, it's too small here, they are in the midst of a big network of influence. On the left here, you can see that the media influence the politicians before they take decisions, because the media, the journalists, are going to have an agenda, they're going to ask him questions, and well, if you are a politician who wants, I don't know, in Catalonia to improve, let's say, autonomia just by chance, if there is a lot of unemployment, maybe autonomia won't be so important, because first people will want job and then autonomia. Or maybe the opposite, they will think that autonomia is better for their jobs, but then you will have to convince them. So anyway, the media will ask questions and you will have to answer. The same thing will be, the same kind of influence will be from the other politicians, because the other politicians, they will have an agenda, and if your agenda is too different of theirs, everyone will wonder, why are you the only one to have this agenda? And on the other side, of course, the polls are going to influence you. You look at the surveys, and you see that autonomia is not so important now in Catalonia, it's unemployment. Are you going to be having autonomia as first item of your agenda? It becomes dangerous. The same in Scotland at the moment. The Scottish Party has won an independence referendum next year, as far as I remember, but maybe unemployment will be a stronger problem, and they won't get autonomia, although they would have got it. And the fourth kind of influence is, of course, your political marketing advisors and your own friends maybe they are not so friends. The politicians of your own party, sometimes they are not so friendly anyway, because they will also try to influence your agenda. So it means a politician today is in the middle of a network of influence, and as you can see, the systemic forces also influence the personal forces. So it's like, it's very hard for a politician today to make a decision. When you were, I don't know, King Philippe of Spain, the first one, you had no problems. You made decisions and you enacted them. Then we arrive to the core of political marketing. When you professionalize your political communication, you have to target, according to marketing rules, your communication. To whom are you going to target? There are many ways to target. You could target the rich and the poor, you could target the women, you could target the young, you could make more elaborate ways of targeting, like cultural targeting, or what kind of newspaper, what kind of use of TV, and so on. But when you are in political communication, the political marketing specialist, at some point, they will make you target according to political affinity, meaning who are you going to look for? You have a division of the voters in 5 categories. The first one, of course, is the steadfast supporters of the candidate. They have voted for you. You know, they have even voted for your predecessor of the same party, and they will vote for you anyway, whatever will happen. Then you have fragile voters, voters who might vote for you, who might have voted for you or sometimes for your party, but maybe they will change their mind, or maybe they are looking to see if your program fits completely their agenda. And the same thing, of course, happens for your opposition. They have steady supporters and they have fragile voters. And in the middle, you can see that there is a category which is the undecided voters or the potential abstentionists. They have little interest in politics. If they had interest in politics, they would know who to vote for. So because they have little interest in politics, it's very difficult to reach them, to have them vote for you, but at the same time, they are an interesting category because they could swing from a side to another. This is why the Americans, they call it the swing voters, like they could swing. And as you can see, when you do campaign, you have 2 ways to campaign. You can do what I call a maintenance communication, meaning, for instance, you are the outgoing politician, like, for instance, Angela Merkel in 2009. This year it's more complicated, it seems. But in 2009, she knew she was going to win. So you don't win to campaign much in that case. You just go with a peaceful, if a campaign can be peaceful, anyway. But you do a campaign towards your own voters, and you just go a little to the undecided swing voters, because anyway, you just want to be sure that you are not going to lose some track. And if you do what is called conquest communication, meaning you are behind and you want to win, then you will have to look for the voters, the vulnerable voters of your opposition. And this is more interesting, and this is what the specialists of political marketing call triangulation, because as you can see, this is a triangle. Instead of going to yours, you do a triangle and you go to your opponents. But of course, going to your opponents is a little dangerous because it means you are going to lose some of your own. This is what happened, for instance, to Lionel Jospin in France in 2002. He went too much on the right, on the center, and he lost some socialist votes and he couldn't stay. So the result, as you can see, is whatever decision you make, when you apply the political marketing rules or habits, you are going to look mainly for the swing voters, because the swing voters, they are your target in any case. And this is why professionalized political communication is somehow interesting, but at the same time causes problems, because if you look always for the swing voters, whatever your position is, it means you are going to have to seek the swing voters. You look for them, but where are they going to be? They are not going to read the newspaper. I had the newspaper this morning. They have no interest in reading the newspaper, except maybe the sports page, Deportes. But the rest, they won't look at it. When they see the news at TV, they would zap and watch rather a game or whatever. And maybe they have no other ways of looking for political communication. So it means you are going to have to look for the swing voters where they are, meaning professionalization of political communication today means more and more depoliticization of politics, meaning you are going to lower the political content of your political communication, strangely enough, in order to be more professional and to read more efficiency, with more efficiency the swing voters. And this is, of course, a paradox, because if you are a politician who is more professional and has to depoliticize part of his political communication to reach the swing voters, how are you going to be able to maintain your contents? And as I told you, there is a progression in political marketing belief. Welcome. Well, maybe it's a group from somewhere. And so there is more and more political communication, more and more influence on political communication. And so in the beginning, in the 60s, it began with what you know as being negative advertising. Suddenly, political communication on TV was not about the values of your politics. It was about the bad things in your opponents. The best example some of you might have seen is that one.
3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9, 9.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
These are the stakes to make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
So this is what is well known as a daisy spot in the United States and by all the political marketing specialists. This was just based on a weak point of one speech of the opponent of Johnson at the time, Barry Goldwater, who had said that at the time there was a Vietnam War, and he said if need be he would push the button of the atomic bomb. And they made this spot, which was shown on the evening when there is a lot of audience on the one of the main channels. And it was made to frighten you. But at the same time, it had no, I mean, the political contents, of course, is still strong, but it's a very strong negative ad. By the way, the Democrats said it was a mistake. They didn't want to show it was just a try. But anyway, it was very strong and very negative. So you can see, I could show you many more negative spots which are more and more personal. But the problem is, even political negative spots now are somehow boring the citizen, because the swing voters, they still find it a little political. Of course, there is a political content here. So what's happening is more and more, the depoliticization of political marketing gets stronger and stronger. And just because it's the morning and it's raining, and of course I didn't know it was raining, but I am going to show you 2 or 3 examples of today political communication, and you will see how the political content is lacking in political communication today. Let us look at just the north of Pyrenees, at France first, because I'm French, why not? This was done by the young of the UMP, the Sarkozy party at the time. Very strong political content, as you can see.
Franchement, ça change bien de toi.
Mais pas du tout, regarde, tu la vas.
Tous ceux qui veulent changer le monde
And then you will see that all the ministers of the Sarkozy government at the time are going to be pretending to sing here, like a karaoke song. This is the minister, this black person was one of the minister. There is another one. There is Rachida Dati, another one at the time, Minister of Justice. Another minister, Minister for European Affairs. Jean-Pierre Raffarin, former Prime Minister. You got the point? Let's go south of Pyreneans.
Antes de terminar este acto, ya que usted ha dedicado este último párrafo a las personas que no pueden hablar y oír y que se expresan con las manos, que nos diga cómo se dice presidente Zapatero.
Again, very strong political content.
Estoy con Zapatero.
Estoy con Zapatero. Estoy con Zapatero.
Okay, and let's go to Russia to finish our little tour. This is to vote for Putin. Of course, every young Russian went to vote after having this spot. So, depoliticization, as you can see, is now a full part of political marketing. But somehow it's not enough, because somehow the politicians don't show and are not really visible in those kinds of ways of expressing political communication. And so there are other ways which are linked to personalization. Of course, personalization comes mostly from the age of television. As soon as television arrived, the people started to have a way to see the politicians which they had never had. Before television, the only way you could look at politicians was going to meetings, and this was only for people who were activists or interested by politics, or was by watching the news sometimes in the cinema, in the movie theaters, and the rest was, you saw pictures, but pictures is not the same. So more and more, politicians were also shown, and then of course political marketing started to say to them, you should expose yourself more, and you should expose yourself better in order to also show that you have personal values. And this was linked to the other part of what I said, meaning if you want to reach the swing voters, sometimes the best way was to show you that some of your personal charisma, of your personal values, of your person was somehow connecting to them. And of course, political content in personal values is connected, is strong, not strong. And you can see, this is a spot for Zapatero, a normal one, I would say.
Más dialoguidad y menos crispacidad.
Lealtad, solidaridad, humildad. Sí, la verdad es que uso mucho la Z. debe ser una cosa de familia o quizá de mi tierra. Y bueno, hemos preparado una explicación de la tarea del gobierno más desenfadada. Habitualmente los políticos tenemos un lenguaje que se aleja de los ciudadanos. Y todo se puede decir con una sonrisa. Lo importante es que todos los españoles conozcan lo que hemos hecho en estos años. Los hechos y los datos. Quedan muchas cosas por resolver, pero hay muchas cosas que celebrar. Me gusta el país en el que vivimos. Me gusta la España de hoy. La España democrática. Esto es la verdad.
So you can see that the most important, there is of course words he says, but it's a spot about his person. You're not going to vote for the PSOE, you are going to vote for Zapatero. And the whole campaign was concept for Zapatero. So, as you can see, it's at the same time voting for a party, but voting more and more for a man. And I showed you, because we are in Spain, a Zapatero spot, but I could show you spots from every country in the world where there are democratic elections, and you would see the same. The more and more, it's the politician who shows himself. So I always show to my students this picture of Nicolas Sarkozy during the first campaign, and and people laugh because Sarkozy is sweating and he's having pictures taken of him while he's sweating. But at the same time, it's a political message which implies his own person, because at the time, in 2007, what he wanted to say is, what his program was, you have to work harder to earn more, and the more important is to work harder. So showing that you stress your own body with sweat and so on, had at the same time a political content, but it was also implying your own body. So not only your person, but then your own body starts to be part of the game. And of course, the worst example, the best example comes from the United States as many times. Look at Obama during the 2008 campaign. Sound is... sound is too low.
El so, si el podeu pujar.
And so this is a 2008 campaign, and in 2012, a little before the campaign last year, he even used his wife in the same show.
Because I like to do a push-up.
Very presidential.
I don't know. I can do some. Can you?
I can do some. I was just wondering if you could do more push-ups than I could do.
You know, it depends on how your back is. I know you've got these back issues.
No.
Okay, where do you want to? All right. Where do you want to do this, Ellen?
We're going to do this. You want to do it one at a time, and we count? You want to do it together, or how do you want to do this?
I think we should do it together.
All right, together.
Together. All right.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right.
All right, you guys count.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Of course, she's going to lose to Michelle Obama if she's polite. So,
20 what? 25.
I just stopped.
All right. thought it wouldn't be good to show off the First Lady, so I stopped. Because I thought, this looks bad that I'm going to beat.
So, as you can see, in order to be a politician today, not only you use yourself, you use your wife, you use your more intimate, and even François Hollande, who says he is going to be a normal president, does exactly the same thing as Nicolas Sarkozy. I don't see a difference in the pictures, right? So what I mean is this really today political communication? We have to say yes, because these pictures, they have been taken by photographers, and they knew the pictures were taken. The push-ups, of course, were prepared, and for probably 1 or 2 weeks, Michelle Obama did some push-ups before going to Ellen DeGeneres. So you use your wife, you use your family. This is the problems of going to the swing voters. You have to go to places where politics is not. So this is the ground basis of modern political communication, and what I wanted to show you first before going into digital political marketing is you have to deal with the present situation. The present situation is that, of course, there is still a political content to political communication, but modern political communication is also partly depoliticized, is also increasing the personal values of the politicians who are competing instead of dealing about their ideas. So this is the ground basis. So what does digital political marketing make for you, and what's the difference between today with internet and smartphones and yesterday without internet and smartphones? First, of course, it's a new tool for political communication for political parties. This is something which seems obvious now because we are used to internet, but you have to understand that never before the politicians were able to reach so easily the citizen, and at the same time, never before were the citizen being able to reach as quickly and as efficiently the politicians when they wanted. When I say when they wanted, it means that when politicians establish websites, for instance, it means that any citizen can go to a politician website, knows what he thinks, know, of course, his personal values, can give money. It means also you can send him email. Of course, it's political spam, but at the same time, even when it's spam, you know, spam gets you some results. There wouldn't be spam if there would not be results. Internet is very cheap to use for political spam. We don't have it so much in Europe, but in the United States it works very well. And even if you have a 0.05% return, which is about the case, well, if you multiply by 100 million, that's something. And so what you can see is that it's a new tool for political communication, and political marketing specialists have started to use it very quickly. Since the 1990s in the United States, they started to use internet for political communication, although they didn't know if it was useful. It's again a question of just trying new tools, and political marketing always tries new tools because you never know if it's not going to work or not. And what's interesting is between the 1990s and 2004 in the United States, everyone thought that they were using internet, but it was not useful. And then in 2004, or 2003 in fact, for the elections of 2004, suddenly there was a politician who was nearly unknown, a Democrat politician, Howard Dean. And Howard Dean was the first American politician who used at the same time classical websites and blogs. He had the website, which was Dean for America Webcom, and the blog, which was called Blog for America Webcom.com. And the connection between the two started to make what we call now the blogosphere. And it worked very well because he could raise nearly $20 million in 3 or 4 weeks. So he got the media attention. He got a huge millions of people petitioning for him to be a candidate for the primaries, and suddenly he was there. Of course, he lost very quickly in the primaries. After the first primaries, he disappeared also because he made some mistakes, and also because he had spent all his money. But the point is not there. The point was that since 2004, and again there is a new belief, since 2004, American politicians knew that thanks to internet and thanks to digital media, an unknown politician could become a well-known politician. And this is how a new belief started. As I told you, marketing is a question of, political marketing is a question of belief. The new belief was, thanks to internet, an unknown person can become a well-known politician. Howard Dean, by the way, was then elected president of the Democrat Party, which is a honor position. But anyway, he is still a well-known politician. And so the new belief came through internet. And since 2004, no one, not only in the United States, but everywhere, avoided internet. They all knew that it could make something for you. And of course, we had in France a real effect of this was when Ségolène Royal in 2007, you might remember that she was a French candidate for the presidential election. And first there were elections among the socialist candidates. And she was, so to speak, the less socialist, meaning she was not in the party, she was not one of the leaders of the party, she was a little outside of the party. And she was against Laurent Fabius and Dominique Strauss-Kahn, who at the time were well-known politicians and had no problems behind, especially Dominique Strauss-Kahn. And she won mainly because she made a huge campaign on the web with a series of blogs called Désir d'Avenir. And the campaign on the web somehow enhanced her credibility. And in the middle of the summer, just before the primary election between the socialist candidates happened, suddenly the surveys showed that she was stronger than Sarkozy, or she might be stronger than Sarkozy, rather than Fabius and rather than Dominique Strauss-Kahn at the time. But the problem, of course, and so the politicians of the Socialist Party started to switch their vote to her, and she won. But she won first because her popularity was established through the web. So as you can see, 2004 in the US, 2007 in France, it's well known now that with internet, you can become a front-ranking politician. Maybe you won't win. You could win, you could not win. But you can at least achieve to be a front-ranking politician through internet. It's done. And so the belief is well established now. As I told you, political marketing specialists and politicians, by the way, look at each other from around the world. And so they know that through his internet, you can become a first-rate politician. And of course, there are, I would say, useful added values of internet. One of the most useful added values is helping mobilizing activists. With internet, you can mobilize activists very easily because let's say you are living in a small town in Catalonia, somewhere, little place in a village. And suddenly you want to help whoever the politician is. And you look, and in the little town, no one. In the past, what did you have to do in order to become a committed activist? You had to go to the big town and to look, where is there a friend of? Now you go on internet, you look at the map of Spain of the political party you want to belong to, you push a button, you look, and you know exactly where to go, and it's very near, and you go there. And then if you want, for instance, to hand out leaflets, you don't have to make the leaflets anymore. You just go on the political party website and you download the propaganda of the party, and then you print it on your little printer and you go around. It's very easy to become an activist today. I'm sure you all have been activists at some point. It's so easy. So internet is a very good way to help mobilizing activists and to help them work. Much more than before. And of course, the last thing, and this is why it's more interesting, but at the same time we are linking to what I said before, internet has become, thanks to the new Web 2.0 achievements, so to speak, has become a way to reach the swing voters, the undecided voters. Why? Of course, the swing voters, the less mobilized voters, the undecided voters, they won't go to the politician website. They are not interested by politics. They won't go to the campaign blogs. They see politics, they don't go. But they go to YouTube. They go to Dailymotion, of course. And they look for clips, funny clips. You know, when you arrive on the front page of Dailymotion or of YouTube, you have the popularity index. What is the most popular spot? Usually it's the most stupid spot. You have a pig which yells and speaks stupid things and everyone laughs and it's good. But sometimes, and now politicians now and political marketing specialists know how to do that, you can use the Web 2.0 tools to reach the non-political committed voters with spots which either pretend to be non-political or which somehow are political, but with such a limited contents of politics that even the swing voters, the people who are not interested in politics, are going to watch them. And the first and the strongest example for that was the 2008 Obama campaign, where they knew at the same time how to directly organize a friendly buzz and also, as I will show you, to target very precisely some voters. Look at the direct friendly buzz of Obama about the "Yes, you can" slogan at the time.
It was a creed written into the founding documents that declared the destiny of a nation. Yes, we can. It was whispered by slaves and abolitionists as they blazed the trail toward freedom. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. It was sung by immigrants as they struck out the distant shores, pioneers who pushed westward against unforgiving wilderness. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. It was the call of workers who organized, women who reached for the ballots, a president who chose the moon as our new frontier, and a king who took us to the mountaintop and pointed the way to the promised land. Yes, we can to justice and equality. Yes, we can. 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 The opportunity.
So you can see there are well-known actors, singers, players. Oh, sorry, it went too fast. There are well-known political actors and so on. And this is direct, what I call direct friendly buzz, meaning it's organized by friends of the party or friends of the politician. They don't hide themselves and they want to express their help. At the same time, you can see there is still a political message, meaning they are emphasizing the slogan, yes, we can. And you can hear at the same time the main parts of some of the main speeches of Obama at the time, including the famous speech on the race, which was so strong. So there is a political content, but at the same time there is a nice music. It's a very popular musician. So somehow it will reach undecided voters. It will reach people who would not watch political contents anymore. But look also at, now I'm trying to get the next one. Hidden targeting.
Thank all of you for your time, your suggestions, your encouragement, and your prayers. And I look forward to continuing our conversation in the weeks and months to come.
Hey B, it's me. If you're there, pick up. I was just watching you on C-SPAN. Anyway, call me back.
You seem to float onto the floor. Democratic Convention 2004. I never wanted anybody more than I wanted you. So I put down my carry sign. Knew I had to make you mine. Smile black and sexy, you're so fine. 'cause I got a crush on Obama. Now wait till 2008. Baby, you're the best candidate. I like it when you get hot on Hillary in debate. Won't you pick up your phone? 'Cause I got a crush on Obama. Now wait till...
So, of course, I'm not letting the whole spot because it's too much, but why is this spot interesting? There are two reasons. One, of course, it's a very entertaining spot. You all liked it, and I saw some men just raising their eyes when she was in bikini. Of course. So it's fun. But at the same time, it's a very astute, hidden targeting. Why? Because the girl is a Latino girl. And at the time, Obama is black, as you know, although he's made a point to say that he's not a slave coming from the slave blacks, but coming from blacks from Africa. But anyway, he's black. And at the time, there was a problem in the Democrat Party because they knew that the Latinos who had voted for Clinton in the primaries were having a hard time to decide to go back to Obama because he was black, and the Latinos don't like usually so much voting for each other. So the fact that a Latino girl was keen on Obama was a way to target the Latinos and to say to them, look, even a Latino girl can fall in love with Obama. So it's hidden targeting. So people who are just watching that for fun are targeted, and it works. And in the end, he got the Latino votes. This was 2008. Of course, 2012 is a different case. So you can see that with the Web 2.0, you can do much more easily hidden targeting than, because it's a very easy mean. If you want to use television, you have to pay ads, and it's written, this ad is paid by Obama, so you know it's Obama. But here, it was supposed to be just friends of Obama. The girl was supposed to be an Obama friend with friends. Of course, we learned afterwards that she was of course, not well-known actress. If she had been well-known, it wouldn't work. And she didn't vote for Obama. She didn't go to vote on the day of voting. They checked. But the targeting was very good, and it's hidden targeting, so it's very useful. But at the same time, you can see how low the political content is and how efficient is the targeting. So this is one of the complexities of modern political communication. At the same time, it goes very well into internet, it goes very well into digital communication. And the last point of digital communication, of course, and this is maybe the more innovative thing in political communication, is that, as you can see, it gives you a brand new access to political communication for the basic citizen. Because, of course, what you know is that Web 2.0 is the first mean of political communication, I would say, in the whole history of the world, which allows the basic citizen as much an access to political communication as the politician or the political parties. When you wanted to access political communication before internet, you had to have an access either to television or to the newsprint, to the news media, meaning you had to be a politician or a political party member to have this kind of access. Today, if my neighbor wants to do some political communication and to become, I don't know, the Gobierno of Catalonia, he can just do his own little website and put it on the web, then do his own clips with the help of his students as an exercise. And suddenly there will be a kind of rumor, oh, maybe Dean Carbonell is a good candidate for Gobierno of Catalonia, just because he put his own little blog and had his student do a little clip showing that his student love him and he's so good. And then he may be considered as a potential candidate. This is what happened with Howard Dean. Why not with Dean Carbonell? After all, Dean and Dean. So what I mean, it's very easy now, even if you are just a basic citizen, look at what happened in Italy now with Beppe Grillo. Beppe Grillo, who got suddenly 19% of the vote, now goes back probably to 0. But anyway, for one election, he managed to completely destroy the balance of the Italian politics just thanks to internet, without any help, without any political party and any politician's help. Maybe Berlusconi did something for him, we will know later, but at the moment we are not sure, we don't know. So what it means is, with internet, anyone can have an access to political communication, which never had happened in the time, because internet allows any person to have vertical communication down top and not top down, and horizontal communication to anyone. And this is a new thing, and this is probably what is causing the most difficulty for democracy. I'm sorry, I'm always a little pessimistic about political marketing. I teach how to do it. At the same time, I tell you to be very careful. So this is another way to tell it to you, that digital political marketing probably increases the danger for democracy. Why? First, because it's a permanent menace for politicians and for democracy, and for political parties. In the past, a politician would be elected. Of course, he would have to campaign. There is a moment where there is danger, but then he rules. And even during the campaign, he would only be seen in official places and during his official speeches, and that's it. Sometimes there would be a paparazzi picture, but, well, it's not much. Except, of course, if in some special cases, but most of the time, politicians were only seen publicly in places and in situations they would control. And this is where political marketing could, of course, help. But today, internet makes it a permanent menace, because any time a politician makes the slightest mistake, it goes boom in the world. Look at Ségolène Royal in 2000.
Comme le disent les Chinois, qui n'est pas venu sur la Grande Muraille n'est pas un brave. Et qui vient sur la Grande Muraille conquiert la bravitude.
So, this looks very silly. You had Ségolène Royal. She had been elected candidate of the Socialists in 2007. And in the beginning of 2007, because just during the election campaign, because Mitterrand had gone to China 20 years before, she thought she should do the same. She went to China just to try to retrace Mitterrand's steps. And then she was very happy. She went to the Great Wall of China like a nice tourist, and she was interviewed by some TVs. And she stupidly, I mean, she's not even stupid, she made a tongue slip. She said, qui va sur la Grande Muraille conquiert la bravitude. But bravitude doesn't exist in French. It's bravoure. It doesn't exist. It's a new word, but I mean, at the time it didn't exist. And so, as it happened, I was working that day at noon when I heard this speech, and I looked on internet and I downloaded it, and then I was very curious. And during 1 week, at noon every day, I went on Google to count how many occurrences there were of bravitude. On the first day, when she said it, there were 7 occurrences. Bravitude was some kind of a character of a gameplay hero in some obscure American game. You know, you were the hero and you could conquer bravitude. Within 1 week, we went to nearly 1 million. In 1 week. Every day at noon, I went and counted on Google. So it means you say, just you have a tongue slip, that's nothing. And suddenly 1 million persons are laughing about you. And this is, it didn't hinder too much Ségolène Royal at the time, but there was an accumulation of those kind of mistakes, which were all shown on the web and increased for her, I would say, the difficulty, and somehow at the end, some people didn't vote for her because they said she's stupid. And she looked stupid because of these tongue slips, which no one would have noticed before. You have a tongue slip in front of TV, even if it shows on TV, it won't replay. But on internet, it replays. Everyone puts it on the web. Look at what happened, and it killed a candidate this year, Rick Perry.
It balances the budget
in the United States Republican primaries.
It does the things to the regulatory climate that has to happen. And I will tell you, it's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see.
You need 5.
Oh, 5, okay. So commerce, education, and the
EPA?
EPA, there you go. No, okay.
Let's talk deposition.
Seriously? Is EPA the one you were talking about? Or?
No, sir. No, sir. We were talking about the Agencies of government, EPA needs to be rebuilt. There's no doubt about that.
But you can't name the third one?
The third agency of government, yeah. I would do away with the education, commerce, and let's see, I can't. The third one I can't, sorry. Oops.
What about the EPA and the...
So you see how awful it is. There is a debate between the Republican candidates. It's even before the primaries. And suddenly one of the main candidates, by the way, he was probably the favorite at the time, Rick Perry, he just forgets, he says there are three agencies of the federal government he wants to eliminate, and he forgets the name of one. And the journalist, of course, is a little mean. He wants to check that he has forgotten. He has forgotten. How can you have, as a president, someone who doesn't even remember three things? Maybe he won't remember the code for the atomic bomb. Or maybe he won't remember, I don't know, you know, we had a French president in the 20s who was found in a nightgown next to a railway station. He was a little crazy and had to resign. So maybe it's the same thing for him. 3 days later, he resigned. He said he would quit the campaign. Just because of one bad moment, which was shown and shown again on internet. So danger, of course, is, just for fun, I'm showing you the Zapatero's daughters. I know you liked. Terrible. Yes, and this picture has gone all around the world. I mean, all around the Spanish world. And that's also something which somehow you can see as a danger. The problem, of course, is not only about elections, it's that it increases the difficulties of government and of political action. Meaning, now, when you want to enact a policy, if you make these kinds of mistakes, you lose some credibility. And again, it's the accumulation of the mistakes which make this credibility go away. One of the problems of Obama in 2012, as you know, was that he was not re-elected so easily. He never took again the yes we can slogan. He couldn't, because he had been in power in 4 years and the economy was not so good and so on. And so in order to improve somehow his popularity, he decided, I have shown you his wife doing push-ups, he also decided to himself commit to a comedian talk show on television, and this was without control, so he had to accept. Look what happened to him.
So you wouldn't say you'd run this time as a pragmatist. You would not. It wouldn't be, yes, we can, given certain conditions.
No, I think what I would say is, yes, we can, but it is not. But it is not going to. It's not going to happen overnight.
So you see, it's on Comedy Central, the comedy television channel, and so Jon Stewart makes him to say, you wouldn't say yes we can, but with some reservation. And he says, no, I would say yes we can, but. So he goes in the trap, and he looks stupid. Look at our French president, who just, at the time, goes to a show, agricultural show, and gets bad reaction from the people. I think
Bonjour, merci, hein. Bonjour, bonjour.
Ah non, touche pas. Alors, casse-toi alors. Tu me salis. Casse-toi alors, pousse-toi.
Merci. Hein? Bonsoir. Comment ça va? On va faire un bisou.
So, what happens is he shakes hands as any politician, and then some very, I must say, rude person tells him, don't touch me, I'm going to be dirty if you touch me, tu me salis, which is really not nice. But then he answers in the same way and says, go away, fuck you in English it would be. And this I mean, it made the headline. It still made the headlines when Bernard Arnault wanted to become Belgium to escape the taxes. The front page of Libération was "Casse-toi, pauvre riche," meaning it became a well-known sentence in popular language today. And pauvre con is very, very vulgar. I must say I never used pauvre con in my life. So it's really vulgar. You can see how politicians are in danger. And this is what's happening at the moment at our French president. They have even found a way to call it. They call it Hollande bashing. Bashing like destroying Hollande. Because he makes so many minute mistakes or wrong decisions and looks a little silly and looks like he's not in the president's shoes, that more and more the newspapers, the magazines, the front page of magazines are concurring to destroy him. And look at the images which, for instance, went around on YouTube when he visited Angela Merkel for the first time. Look at how she has directed. Wait, it's not finished.
No declaration about French fries.
One of the best shows on YouTube with popular.
One more time.
Well, it's stupid, as you can see. There is no political content, but it goes around on YouTube, and it doesn't help his image. And it contributes to the fact that then the front page of the newspaper can show you that is he the real president? Is he a real president? He doesn't even know how to deal with working with other heads of states. And then my final point, which is the most gloomy one, of course, is the fact that Web 2.0 is, of course, helping disseminating anti-democratic ideas and helping extremists. Why? Because let's say that one of you somewhere here would like to, I don't know, do something horrible in Catalonia. I don't know. I won't even say it because it could give you ideas. He wants to do something horrible, like the Chechen guys in the United States. How did they know that you can have a plain cooking instrument, put some nails and so on, and be so nasty? You go on internet, how to make a bomb, or you look for with some keywords for instance, I look on jihad, and immediately you find even on YouTube, which is somehow American controlled, you immediately find these kinds of things. I just put jihad. It's easy. And I stopped because I didn't want the Secret Service of America. But it's enough. You just put jihad on YouTube and you get these kind of images, and you have this guy who says nasty things. So what it means is one of the final dangers of internet is really that people who are really minority and who are against democratic values find, of course, strong help there, because they know they are not alone. Because, you know, if you find the population, we are now 6 or 7 billion people on Earth, of course there are a few thousand who are crazy. But they didn't know there are other people who were crazy as they were until internet. Now they can find each other. As a conclusion, of course, please don't be as pessimistic as I can look now. You have to remember that digital political communication is neutral as such, meaning it's a means of communication. It doesn't have any political content by itself. It doesn't add any negative thing. As any media, it does what the guy who uses it for his communication wants. So if it's a politician using it for democratic values and for democratical content, for his political communication, to be elected, then to enact his policy, well, it's a normal means of communication. It's a new media. The only thing is that it's new, but it's a media. You could have the same thing. But it allows you, this is not in the leaflet, by the way, the conclusion, it allows you a new step in political communication. The new step is access by the basic citizen. And this is where it's new, because the basic citizen had never had any access to political communication in the way now internet allows. The only way you had was, for instance, in Russia, they had, the samizdat, or in China, the dajibao, you could write, because, in Russia at some point, even writing machines were forbidden in the 1940s. Only in specific place, if you bought a writing machine, you had to have a special clearance, because they didn't want people to hand out anti-communist, so you had to write it by hand, of course, with little efficiency. But it's true that internet is a new way, a new step in political communication, because it allows everyone an access. And the question we can ask is, how good is it for the democratic process? And this, of course, is a question to be asked. I gave you some of the positive ways of digitalization. I gave you some of the negative. It's do as you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I was asked to leave a few minutes for questions.
Sí, ara tenim uns minuts per fer preguntes, qui vulgui, fer comentaris. Necessitarem un voluntari. Aquí el tenim. Gràcies. Podeu aixecar la mà i donarem paraules. Vinga, allà.
It can be in French, in English, or in Spanish.
In French is better for me, but I don't know if the rest. Ok, d'accord, bon, in French alors. Bonjour, en fait je voudrais vous demander tout d'abord, vous avez présenté des idées que je pense très intéressantes par rapport aux dangers que représente pour la démocratie le marketing politique, mais je voudrais connaître votre opinion sur la situation qui se passe en Espagne en ce moment, de notre président Rajoy, qui ne se présente plus en fait face aux citoyens, qui ne se présente plus face aux médias, et qui même la dernière fois qu'il s'est présenté face aux médias, il l'a fait à travers une télévision. Donc ça serait peut-être le contraire, un manque extrême de marketing politique, ou même dans un moment où l'accès des citoyens vers la communication politique est extrême, qu'un président nous donne le contraire. Merci.
Ça me fait penser à... I should answer in English, maybe. In English? Yes. So the question was about what do I think about the fact that Rajoy is nearly absent from media, only a few times on television, right? In English. My answer is that political marketing sometimes advises you to be silent, especially when you are in power. The best example was in France when Jacques Pilon, who was the communication advisor of François Mitterrand, and then was even the communication advisor of Jacques Chirac when he came to power. He was given to Chirac by Mitterrand, which is very odd because they were opposing parties. And his policy was, if you are a president, you should be silent and only speak in very important moments. And somehow, this is something which was broken by Sarkozy, who started to speak all the time and who changed the pattern. So in France now, one of the problems of Hollande is he somehow tried to come back to the Mitterrand non-speaking policy, and he couldn't, because now the French have been used that their president is supposed to speak all the time. And so Rajoy probably has advisors who tell him the situation is, when the situation is bad, if you speak only in very specific moments, then maybe your word is going to be stronger. And anyway, if you speak every day, you will make too many mistakes. So probably he has the same kind of advisors.
Més coses?
You have mentioned the Boston affair, the Boston events.
What do you think will be the influence of these events in social media?
In
social media.
Well, as I said, I'm afraid that more cooking instruments are going to be used all around the world. And it's not, I'm not saying that to be funny.
I would like to ask a question because I was really impressed because it's the first time that a scholar said the truth about one main thing, that there is really a danger of social media in relation with democracy. It's my first time to hear. Normally, the scholar says that social media means transparency. And it's true. It's true that we are moving to a more transparent society. And that normally is seen like something very positive for democracy. More democracy means more transparency. And today I would like to say is the first scholar that said also that if it's true that more social media, more networks means more transparency, it's true too that there are some dangers for democracy and also for governments. But if you have both values, transparency and this kind of danger, what do you think? What in some way is more important?
Well, it's a yin and a yang, you know, the old story. Meaning, you are saying that most of the scholars you've listened to until now say that social media, Web 2.0 is so nice. But you have to understand that when you are a scholar and you work on something, well, of course it has to be important because you would undervalue your own work if you didn't say it was important. The problem is, as I said, social media are media. So a media is what you do about it. It doesn't have any kind of inherent content. If you use your tongue and you speak, you could say nice things, you could say nasty things. You have the choice. It's the yin and the yang. So there is no reason that social media are different. They don't have a positive value as such. They have the value you give to any media. Just because they are called, by the way, social media, doesn't mean they are called social because it's a misuse of the word in a way. They are media which are at the disposition of anyone. They are called social media because anyone can use them, which is their strong new point. But anyone can use them for the yin or the yang. And I have no reason to believe that the yin is better than the yang. You know, in science fiction, you had Van Vogt, who did science fiction, calling it the world of the non-A, which was the non-logic, and everything was reversed. We decided that the matter is more important than the antimatter because our universe is made so. But there is no reason it isn't. Maybe there is another antimatter universe somewhere. It's the same for media. It could be positive, could be negative, depends on who speaks.
Més qüestions aquí al mig.
You have talked about Grillo and the use he has about the web, but you know that obviously the way he does the meetings is not the common way. Some people say he's populist, the way he does the meetings, because someone seems like a prayer. What do you think about his maybe new way of communication or the Grillo's way to do it?
What I could say is he knows very well how to use social media. I couldn't say more. I mean, he had a popularity which came from elsewhere, and he used it for political contents. But you have to understand that the situation in Italy is very particular because the Italians have a love-hate situation about Berlusconi, who has been their on and off leaders for the past 20 years. So Beppe Grillo, in a way, was the anti-Berlusconi. So maybe Beppe Grillo would never have existed without Berlusconi. So it's a very specific political situation. Politics in Italy, we've seen it, is really strange.
Allà una altra.
Par rapport à la situation en Italie, vous avez dit que possiblement la stratégie de Berlusconi aurait aidé Beppe Grillo d'une certaine manière. Est-ce que vous pourriez spécifier un peu plus, s'il vous plaît?
No, I'm sorry. It's just conjectural because Beppe Grillo had a good result, but then somehow doesn't seem to know how to use his result. And the one who suddenly came up again, strangely enough, is Berlusconi, who had his main help, the secretary of his party, being now the vice prime minister. So what I'm saying is, unknowingly, Beppe Grillo somehow has helped Berlusconi to come back to the first front row. So I'm just saying maybe Berlusconi, of course, was happy of the result. So who knows? Maybe he helped Beppe Grillo. But this is just purely conjunctural. Anyway, the result helps Berlusconi. Without Beppe Grillo, probably the Bersani would be now the president of the Consiglio. So Berlusconi would be out. So somehow, the result of Beppe Grillo is Berlusconi, the party is again strong. That's it. It's just technical.
Hi ha alguna pregunta més? Jo en tinc una, i si de cas seria l'última. Professor Maarek, what happens with ideas when through social media and digital communication, the important thing is lapsus, little things, little mistakes? What happens with the big ideas, the philosophical ideas with the issues which are important in politics?
Well, I was showing the two of my books there, and in the two books, in the American one, maybe you can show again the last slide. No, he's gone. He's gone.
Podeu connectar amb el PowerPoint?
Yes, in the American book, it was funny because the title of the conclusion was not conclusion, but something like precautions for use. And then the publisher thought it, or the guy who does the editing thought it was a mistake and gave me the proofs with only conclusion. And I said, no, it does have a meaning and it's not a mistake. Meaning my conclusion when I teach and when I speak about political marketing and political communication is it's like a media in a way. You do about political marketing what you want. And the problem and the danger of political marketing is if a politician only listen to the political marketing advisors, he won't do politics anymore. He will do marketing. So the problem of politicians, and even stronger today, the stronger the problem is, the stronger is the influence of political marketing, is if a politician wants to keep his authenticity, he has to resist this network of influences. And this is where the danger lies, because you have to remember that in democracies there are only two options for the basic citizen to exerce their will. One is election, and the second is somehow revolution. What you have in Playa del Sol in a way is something which is, we are not yet at the Arab Spring, but somehow when you have people, and now in France when we had people, millions of people demonstrating against the wedding, I'm sure the real reason is not really because they're against for the homos to get married together, because probably it's not so important for them. But what's important is they want to express in the street that there is a dislike for the way the France is governed. And so they found this way of expressing. So the problem of political marketing is if you lose your authenticity too much, if you listen too much to political marketing advisors, you won't be a politician anymore. You will just be a puppet who is played by the marketing advisor.
Thank you, Professor Maarek.